And welcome back to the Part-Time Otaku post-show, episode 13. Jam-packed episode this week. We kick off by talking about Tarantino's current podcast tour and all the fun stuff that surrounds that. Loki episode 4, and then also just MCU Disney Plus shows in general. Grant gives his review of OddTaxi now that he's wrapped that up. And then we talk for a solid bit about Mandelorian Season 2, which I finally just wrapped up myself. It's spoiler-filled and lengthy, so we hope you enjoy that. We cover quite a bit of anime news, things like To Your Eternity being on hiatus, Tokyo Revengers, and plenty of Demon Slayer stuff. Then Grant gives his review on the new Steven Soderbergh movie called NoSuddenMoves, which sounds interesting. And then there is, of course, the announcement of StarWarsVisions, the new anime anthology series, which we're both looking forward to quite a bit. We end the show on Grant's review of the TV show Bosch, which just finished its 7th and final season. Thank you guys so much for listening, and enjoy. Oh, hey, Grant.
Hey, Dave.
How are things, sir?
Good.
I want to pick right up from where we left off last week.
Okay.
We started the show with, like, a weird random rant about, like, both Rogan and Tarantino.
Sure.
I want to talk about like the latter, the funner part of that conversation.
Yeah.
Tarantino.
Listening back, I was like, I don't know why I took such a strong stance. Like, it's not even an opinion I care about that much. And I was like drilling it down about the Rogan stuff specifically. But I was just looking back. I was like, whatever.
No, I wasn't harping on you.
No. Harping on myself.
So my thought is that, I broke the news last week, quote, broke the news. I was like, yo, Quentin Tarantino is on Joe Rogan. It's a 3-hour podcast. I'm like 20 minutes in. It's great. I was mostly excited because Tarantino isn't really known for that kind of stuff. Long form interviews, especially, right? Like,
sure.
Big entertainment, like, I don't know what you would call it, like AAA Hollywood status.
Yeah.
They're starting to do like podcast things now, but for the longest time it was like, late night 8-minute interviews with like a joke built in. So I was just excited to see a long Tarantino thing. And then you told me, you were like, yo, he also did, what was it, Mark Maron and Big Picture.
Yeah.
And I ended up seeing later Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard.
Yeah, so I didn't realize all their stuff went to Spotify. And I was just like, I don't really like follow them on social media. And I was like,
Armchair?
Yeah, I was like, that's fucking weird. I haven't seen like an episode in a couple weeks. And I looked into it and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's shitty. I hate that, but it is what it is.
Well, Spotify it's probably spent in the neighborhood of $500 million in the last, 18 months acquiring podcasts.
Yeah.
Rogan was a fifth of that. They just acquired this Barstool podcast called Call Her Daddy for like $60 million.
Oh.
They got obviously they got Dax Shepard's podcast. Like they're just gobbling up podcasts, trying to just make it like a Spotify thing.
They're definitely grabbing some whales for sure.
I think the Ringer Network, are they Spotify exclusive?
It's Big Picture, but their stuff I think it's just like back catalog stuff, at least for the interim, is I think it's like anything past 60 days or prior to 60 days is only on Spotify. But the new stuff is like still trickling through. Like once that's not missing on my app, then I'll have to jump over like fully to Spotify for podcasts, because that's like one of my main rotations is that network.
You not a Spotify guy?
It's just clunky, like the podcast section. Also too, like the past couple updates of Spotify, like for music, it's my go-to.
Yeah.
For streaming and all that. But I just haven't been happy with it for the past year. But like I'm so embedded, like I'm not gonna move away from it. Like I'm not an Apple Music. Like I don't have an iPhone.
It's that platform lock-in too, though, right? Once you've been in a service for so long,
for sure.
Dude, don't make me leave. Like
that's exactly what it is. But the podcast side of it is so.
You don't like it?
I just don't think it's user friendly at all. Like I use Pocket Casts. Actually, recommendation from you for like 6 years ago.
Really good app. Anyway, that's a good app.
Yeah, great app. But it's so like I'll eventually have to make a migration once more and more shows that I listen to get picked up. But sorry, we totally strayed away from the Tarantino.
Yeah, so I ended up checking out your recommendation and I finished the Rogan interview. Dude, I don't know what it was or what I was doing in this last week. I just had a lot of time to ingest podcasts. So I listen to, I think, all of them. Maybe not like 100% full listens, but I listened to the Rogan one and the Big Picture one and the Marin one, and I think like I'll just echo what you said last week because I don't want to just say all the things that you said, but it's crazy how different those interviews are. Yeah. And how, like, to come back a little bit on the Rogan stuff, like just how surface level he is. Rogan's questions are more about like, what was it like to write Pulp Fiction? And like, I don't know, how much of that kung fu did you know about in Kill Bill? And there was like some cool tidbits about like Bruce Lee that Tarantino dropped in that podcast.
Stuff sneaks in for sure.
But then you go to the Mark Maron podcast and the Big Picture podcast, and it's like, well, he has a relationship with these people, and like you can tell they're just like a big mutual like fandom between it's just sort of different when people come in admiring each other's work ahead of time.
Yes. Yeah.
Like there's just so much that's like kind of over my head, particularly about like, the 70s and 80s and all the Manson stuff, just having not grown up with it.
Sure.
But like listening to like Maron and Tarantino just go down these rabbit holes.
Oh yeah.
Of like, well, that stuff was on the TV when we were kids, and it was hard to get away from like the Manson stuff. And like hearing it through that lens between them, and that makes you appreciate his most recent movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a little bit more. And then also hearing him just totally geek out on his filmography and just all of his film history stuff that he's into on the Big Picture podcast was like so fun. So fun.
Oh my God. Did you kind of a sidebar? I think I recommended this to you last year or maybe 2 years ago now, but he was on the Rewatchables podcast, which is the Big Picture guys, more or less, Bill Simmons and all that, and he did 3 episodes with them back to back.
I did.
And it was the same vibe as when he was just on this Big Picture episode. Like everyone is just on the same wavelength of like obviously like there's vastly different, like everyone has their own area of like what they know best and what they love the most and all that, but just watching people come together and just geek out, like that's that's kind of like what we're doing. Like it's nice to see other people do that too.
It's crazy to see them do that at that level.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a very good point.
I am astounded at Tarantino's ability, just his memory recall. Like, as we're getting older, and I just feel like that stuff, to be able to like quickly recall both old information and new information, that's like the hard thing, and I don't know what to do about that. But like, he just seems to be able to access any piece of random film history within the last 40 or 50 years, just within seconds. Yeah. Like, it's crazy to hear the Big Picture. Oh yeah. Like, hear the Big Picture guys or Maron, somebody makes a reference. Like, oh, well, do you know this director? And usually that's like kind of a leading question that people are like easing you into it in case you don't know. And then they can explain it to you. And Tarantino's answer is always like, yeah, actually he did this and this, and he was inspired by this guy. Like, he doesn't like just miss a beat. It's ridiculous. Yeah. The funny thing is, ironically, that he doesn't really watch is TV. He like Dax Shepard brought that up.
Oh, really?
Like, do you see any good TV stuff? He's like, no. Like,
but that was the thing too, on the Big Picture. He brought up a really good point of like the anti-binge mentality, and it was really interesting to hear like a clear, concise opinion of it. Like usually like people are just so like abrasive about it online, whether it's like do what you want, but just to hear like, I don't want to say like an intellectual, but someone who's like embedded into the system to really get into that. I was like, oh, that is interesting. And it's true. Like, how many times have you, in this episode, we're going to talk about something that I binged this week, and for different reasons, but there is stuff I missed, I'm sure, like all this and that. So it's really great conversations.
Big time. I was a big fan. And yeah, like you said, it's really interesting to hear somebody so embedded in the film industry talk about all these changes that are happening. And like you said, like, he made Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for $95 million, grossed over $300 million at the box office, which is great. It's funny how kind of, I don't know if quaint is the right word, but kind of quaint that is when you look at the MCU and you're just used to half these movies grossing $1 billion.
It's crazy because, a movie like he made that was a titan 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's still here, and it's funny because it's still making the same amount that it was back then.
Yeah.
You know, it just goes to show what these, you know, not, I guess the new age blockbuster, because there's always been blockbusters, but like just this new breed of them. They're just so big, so encompassing, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Big
it's crazy.
Time. So yeah, that was Tarantino. They're really good podcasts. I recommend that you check them out if you're a Tarantino fan. Mm-hmm. Just to hear his like pretty concrete opinions on a bunch of stuff. And in long form. Way better than any like late night interview you have ever heard of him, if you're into that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that was like what I wanted to start the show with.
For
what
sure.
do you got, homie? What have you been up to?
Well, I'm on holidays, so this is the reckoning of content, or at least the past couple of days have been. But I finished OddTaxi. I mentioned that to you a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
It's 13 episodes. Probably it's, you know, it's a little early. I think you and I have been talking. We want to do like a year or like mid-year in review at this point. OddTaxi is, I can't get it out of my mind. It's really. It was a real treat. It's something I've never really watched. You know, it's you know, and it's when we talked about it last time, it's not so out of my realm because it's kind of touching, kind of like not so quite a noir genre, but it's kind of like a thriller. It's a bit of a mystery, very, you know, very lighthearted, even though there is like heavy themes into it. But 13 episodes, completely surprised by the ending, completely caught me off guard. Which is, you know, in anime, it's kind of sometimes, you know, unless it's like a big bombastic show where it's meant to, like, there's shock value and all that. It's sometimes you can see these things coming like a mile away. And even by the end of it, I was kind of like, oh, after it happened, I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, that is the direction they were going, but still, like, it caught me off guard.
Interesting.
It was like, did you end up catching at least the first episode? I think you had mentioned you were planning on doing that.
I did not.
Oh, that's all right. It doesn't matter. I'm still behind on Loki, so.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, oh, big time, yeah. Yeah, what are you gonna do? But no, honestly, it's a really, really good show, and it feels weird saying this because we're in the culture of we want more, we want more, we want more. It's kind of ended, not on a cliffhanger, but the way it ends, there's a chance it's like this is a finite story. And I didn't go looking into the manga or kind of see how many arcs, but the way it ends, it's kind of just like a, you know, like a quick little flash and it's over. And
so you don't know if this is a limited series per se, or
I don't
know?
That's the thing, I don't know.
Okay.
But from what I've seen, the way it ended, I think this specific story is done. It's told, and I am completely content with what I had. I'm always gonna. I'll rewatch this. This is one of those shows I'll just rewatch this in a couple of years.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
just if I have some time, you know, do like a quick little romp. It's like, you know, and it's nice to see. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, you finish Attack on Titan, you're like, oh my god, like give me more. You know, like, and I watched OddTaxi. I absolutely adore it, and I am fine with just it being it. You know, and there's not a lot of things you can say.
Yeah.
About that, so it's I anyone listening, I highly recommend the show. I know it's a weird, it might be for some people, it might be a weird point of entry for this type of anime. Completely worth it. Like it's you know, it's like this could be a drama on HBO, and I said that last time. Like, you could just watch this story. Mind you, they're all animals, and some people immediately get turned off by that because it's not realistic, but you know, like shooting laser beams from your hands is, I don't know, it's, you know, you know what I mean.
Movie is still in the collective consciousness.
that could be it for sure for the creator audiences. But no, I really, really enjoyed my time with it. I'm glad this is pretty much this season, other than My Hero, this is the only show I've been able to actually following week to week. Like, I jumped in like at the 5 episode mark, give or take, I believe, and since then I've been kind of, you know, watching it week to week more or less, and yeah, just really, really, really
Nice.
good story. Yeah.
I feel bad because I haven't touched it, and you are clearly excited about it. So I think my homework will be, I will watch at the very least the pilot, and then
and I think that would be enough.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nice too, and that's the thing too. The by the end, like, there's little breadcrumbs. Like, it's a mystery, right? And there's little breadcrumbs along the way, and in sometimes these shows, you know, there's clearly red herrings, but then there's they're setting up other things, and then you don't see about it for like 3 other seasons. They kind of wrapped all those little breadcrumbs up by the end. And that's what kind of makes me think that it's, it's done. Like, they could do another story years later, like do it, like an anthology kind of thing.
Sure.
With the brand. I was thinking of that, but it's like I said, I think this could be it, and I'm more than happy with that. It was a really good journey.
Nice. I will take a look, but
yeah.
For now, OddTaxi. You mentioned Loki in the middle of that. So I think you're on episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, I've finished 2. Yeah.
Okay, so I won't spoil anything for you or our listeners, but I will say I'm caught up. Though I think like a new episode is probably dropping tonight or tomorrow.
It'd be tomorrow night. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can barely remember it, to be frank, but I remember the ending. I remember some fun twists and turns. But it didn't do a ton for me. Like, I'll say that the show in episode 4 is sort of defining its direction as a show. Like, no more setup, no more like world building this. Now this is like, we're just in plot now. Characters are established. They have relationships. And now it's just like, okay, what are we doing here? And how are we going to wrap this up? They've got 2 hours, not even, left to do that. They've made some decisions in the last couple of episodes that are like, I don't know, I would say concrete in their direction. Mm-hmm. And, for better or for worse, like they've picked a lane and we're just going this way now. So, I liked it. I wasn't like crazy enthused. I wasn't disappointed. Sure. It seems fine so far. Yeah, it is.
It's kind of hard because it's like I said, and we talked about this last week. That like when I still wasn't caught up then, it's just one of those shows where like for me it's on the back burner. There's the crazy thing is there's not even that much more that I'm trying to watch. It's just it didn't grip me to the point where it's Wednesday night, I need to watch this. It's not really a
priority.
Like WandaVision, like okay, let's go. It's Thursday night or Friday or whatever. Yeah. I think it came out on Thursdays. We watched it on Fridays, but. I'm trying to like dissect a little bit without getting into spoilers, and it's hard because
Oh, you can spoil for our listeners. I mean, it doesn't matter.
No. Like I am going to watch it. I do want to see where it's going on my own, and I do want to talk about it. But there seems to be a lot of like discourse about like there's a lot of like one side like is that evident when you watch it that like there's just decisions that blatantly people are like what the fuck like that's the kind of the vibe I'm getting from the outside.
Yeah, 100%. I mean like it's I think what I've noticed maybe just as part of the lesson of the transition between movie to TV and not necessarily the other way around is that it's fucking weird and like it's hard. You almost have to throw everything out and like start over, which is almost what they did in WandaVision. Like that WandaVision was so fucking weird that like you kind of lost your expectations a little bit of who that character was based off of the movies. They like kinda in that last episode like tried to force you to remember like, oh, but remember it's Scarlet Witch and she does skybeam battles, and ironically like bringing that part of the character back was the worst part of the show.
For sure.
But I think that Falcon and the Winter Soldier suffered from a similar problem, and Loki is suffering from a similar problem throughout, which is like you have these expectations of these characters, but they've never really been developed a whole ton. And now you have to fill 6 hours of them. And, like, it's not like, the actors or the writers aren't up to task. Yeah. It's just that you can tell that Disney is like, okay, but, this still has to look good. And it's like they're just throwing, I would define
is it a half measure?
I would say they're throwing a awkward amount of money at these shows because they're, like, the most expensive TV ever made. But they're almost like little movies. But they're not little good movies. You know what I mean? They're like little middling... better than any TV you've seen and not nearly as good as any Marvel movie that you've seen, and it's just weird. And it suffers from like the typical Marvel problem of like so much of the actual development is merely set up to other shit.
Yeah.
Which is
the wheels got to keep turning. Yeah.
It's just tricky. Like I will say like Hiddleston is absolutely killing it. There's an episode in there where you don't see a lot of Owen Wilson, and as a result, it makes you think like, damn, I miss Owen Wilson. Like they really do have good chemistry, the
Sure.
two of them, and there's some really great moments between the two of them and the other new characters on the show. It's just, I think the project itself is a difficult task and not necessarily the execution that is the problem. You know what I mean? Like it may, I don't know what the right decision is, but I'll reserve judgment until the whole miniseries is over, because like I said, they've picked a lane, like a very clear direction, and they, it's up to them to stick the landing. I think it's definitely possible.
And it's not, it might not be fair to say, but even like 2 episodes in and kind of, just checking the temperature from the outside without having seen the most recent 2 episodes, I'm starting to lose confidence in this whole Disney Plus TV push. It was, it's not like it was novel from the get-go. Like WandaVision had the excitement. I think Winter Soldier had not the star power, but it's hard to...
They really push that though. Like
they really...
the relationship between the actual actors and their fictional counterparts. Like, like this is like old friends coming together again. And then they made a buddy cop show that was like kind of like not as good as any buddy cop show.
Yeah.
But it's also Marvel-y, and they're like, but let's also tackle like these really serious issues with like kind of these weird half-measure scenes. It was just weird. That show was all over the place.
I'm wondering if the shows coming down the pipe are going to benefit from some new faces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because we have such an investment to the way these other things have looked with these, like, like these AAA, these, A-list stars from the movies coming down.
That was the word I was
down
looking
to
for
the
earlier.
TV.
A-list.
And, it's, I don't know, because, like, there's that, is it Ms. Marvel? There's that, and then there's also, like, the She-Hulk. Like, they have some really interesting stuff coming down the pipe, which I'm excited to see how that's going to be brought to life. But, like, just the state of things, I'm not fully the excitement I had back in January is not here.
You raise a really good point.
It's fatigue.
Though.
Yeah, it's for sure.
I think you raise a good point. They may benefit a lot from new faces and completely like no expectations, right? Like the 3 shows they've had, and to be fair, one of them was really great minus the ending.
Yeah.
Have all had the burden of being part of the MCU for several movies.
Yeah.
Like how many movies were Bucky and Falcon in before they got their own show? How many movies has Scarlet Witch and Loki been a part? Like they just have a lot that they have to shoulder. They have a lot of baggage. So they carry that into the show, and that's maybe why it feels kind of like a half measure. So yeah, like that She-Hulk show you mentioned. Like, you don't really know anything. There's no setup, and that might be good for once.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like it's not that we need fresh ideas, because if there's one thing, with the exception of Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier, there has been some originality. Like this Loki story is trying to do its own thing. WandaVision fucking for sure was trying to do its own thing, and that's been the best part of these 3 shows so far. So I think going forward, like I said, maybe some fresh new faces, no expectations, and some goofy ideas. I think we're up for it. Like after watching this, and then especially coming out of Falcon and Winter Soldier, this Moon Knight show coming down the pipe with Oscar Isaac, I'm worried about that one.
I haven't even heard of it, so that's where I'm at.
Oh, okay. So there you go. It's supposed to be like Marvel's Batman-esque type character. Yeah. So I'm a little.
Man, Oscar Isaac.
I know.
My homie.
I know. Anyways, but yeah, Loki. I don't know. I'm going to be catching up next week. Believe me, we will be having a full up-to-date Loki conversation.
So I want to give you a chance to tell me what you've been watching, but there's something that segues too perfectly for me to not take the opportunity. And I want to give you an opportunity to contain your excitement and your vocal cords.
All right.
Because for whatever reason, I don't know, or I had a long weekend. We had Canada Day, and then I had another day off after that. So I've been doing a lot of chilling, let's just say. Sure. And I binged in its entirety all of Mandalorian season 2.
Oh, fuck. All right, let's do it. Let's set 25 minutes aside here, and let's just get into this.
That was an appropriate. That was solid. I appreciate the restraint.
I'm sweating. That's how hard I was restraining.
It's like, I didn't yell, but now I'm having a panic attack.
Energy reserves are being sent elsewhere.
No, man. So I watched all of season 2 in like a few days. Like I might have watched like 4 episodes in one day
It's
at one point.
surprisingly bingeable because
Yeah.
there's like some random like I think there's one episode that's like 27 minutes. No.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe one on the low end somewhere in there. Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of that. Like I feel like season 2, at least the first half, was a lot of like 35
Yeah.
minute episodes, which I'm fine with, but usually some of that caliber and style is usually much longer.
I'll say that because I binged it and didn't watch it week to week, I do have like the itis of it kind of blurring together.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when you watch, you know, like episodes of Loki, when you watch it week to week, you're like okay, this stands on its own. It's an event.
Mm-hmm.
When you just like burn through something, you maybe potentially don't do it justice. Because I think like this show, tell me if you feel this way, it feels like it's meant to be like, this week, here's what Mando's up to. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like side questy, like.
And that was a complaint, I think.
Oh, that's not even a con for me. I just mean like it's almost every week is maybe intentionally separate. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Did you like that? Not like that? Do you agree?
There was, I think it's funny because we haven't watched the first season obviously since like it was around, so it's the most far away. But I found there was definitely points in the second season. It kind of felt there was kind of a guise of he's just trying to get from point A to A or A to B because he had to do that. Like I think there was points where he was stranded, so it kind of made sense from him kind of like planet hopping in the way he was. So it wasn't too bad, but I definitely understand. It could have been a little tighter.
Sure.
You know that I think like I know like the internet there was some pretty big complaints about exactly like you said it perfectly, like the side quest of the week angle that the show kind of took, and like I said, it didn't really bother me that much because what was presented to us was just fucking off the walls great, you know, like it's aesthetically and performances and just lore, like fucking Star Wars lore, man.
Lore galore.
Lore galore. And you know it's good. How about that big ending at the end?
Big ending at the end. Yeah, I had a small spoiler on that, but
well, yeah, that was impossible.
So the ending was great. I was very down with that. You know, I'll tell you, listeners, if you're listening, like we're going to talk about specific plot details throughout all of season 2 of The Mandalorian. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Listeners beware.
You know, I think it was hype.
Yeah.
I think piggybacking off the whole criticism of that I kind of put down on like the Loki and the Marvel shows is like this is probably the best TV I've seen out of sci-fi, like especially it almost makes like invalidates my argument because my argument earlier was like you kind of took this thing that was on the big screen, you put it on the small screen, and then like you know it doesn't really work because you're kind of hamstringing it. And you would think that The Mandalorian would have literally that problem. I mean, because it's exactly what they did. The difference is like it's all new characters and environments, and it's in its own unique time period. So they have to worry about canon, but they don't have to worry about picking up existing plot lines like the MCU shows do. But it's stellar. You know, and it's cinematography, it's shot collection, the soundtracks. Oh my god, the artwork.
The soundtrack is very, very good. Just you know, you hit the intro, you're like, "Fuck yeah, let's do this."
The artwork, the set design, the production value, like that shit all looks like a movie. It all looks like a movie. It is unbelievable how good it is. Like, because you know there are scenes in Loki, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like you can sometimes be like that shot they save money on. That shot they went for it. It's like anime, right? It's like sometimes
absolutely.
it's like oh look, like the animators had like an extra week to work on this fight scene. That's why it looks so good. But this one they had to do in 2 days and it looks like shit. Sometimes in some of the MCU shows you can see that a little bit. I can't see anything in The Mandalorian. It's just consistently like what? How the fuck are they doing this?
You know, I'm sure there's examples that I'm not thinking of in the moment or thinking of right now, but I think The Mandalorian of any show, I've never seen more respect for the fans from it's the total package. It's you would hit it earlier. It's the music, it's the content itself, like the Easter eggs for the fans, like watching that week to week, going into the Mandalorian subreddit or the Star Wars subreddit, and watching like the OGs from like the 70s and 80s who are on the internet getting into stuff, be like, oh yeah, I remember that book from like, you know, this era, this Legends book, and they're pulling from that, and like, you know, there's like, you know, the Crate Dragon in I think it's the first or second episode of season 2.
Yeah.
Its call that its sound, that is the voice, that is the noise that Obi-Wan tries to replicate in the original movie.
That's amazing.
The original Star Wars, when he scares with the Tusken Raiders, like little stuff like that. Like they're going so fucking deep and like pulling from this. You know, it's
the sound picks. They do a lot of that. They pick up a lot of sound from the originals.
Yeah, but they don't make you feel stupid.
Nope.
They 100% feel it for the fans, and also too, like the really cool thing with this season, as you know, going back, because we're excited to get back to the Mandalorian, because all this stuff with Katie Sackhoff and the other Mandalorians, like the former members of Death Watch, like they are evident, like they are very major in the Clone Wars story.
Oh, okay.
So seeing them, like when we were watching it, they were brought to life. We're like, oh, this is like, she's clearly important. And then when we finished it, that's when we went back and we rewatched everything. And so like she even did the voice too in the show in Clone Wars.
Is that
Bo-Katan?
Bo-Katan. That's the redheaded chick at the end who wants the dark saber. That ironically our boy Mando grabbed. That was pretty great.
Yeah, all of that, and like you know, I think we had talked a few weeks ago.
So she voices the same character in the anime, the Clone Wars anime.
She did that like years ago.
Wow.
And then when they were shooting this, and that like there was rumors that Bo-Katan was going to be in it, she got to play the fucking character. Like it looked like, cool. It's really, really cool. So we're excited to like, once we get through, because we're getting close, we're going to be starting Mandalorian again soon.
Interesting.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff.
I always forget his name, the guy who plays Gustavo Fring, the actual actor. Moff Gideon. Really great to see him.
Giancarlo Esposito, that's his name.
Yes, thank you. The stuff with, like, it's crazy to see week to week the relationship between a non-existent character in Grogu and the Mandalorian grow. Like, they balance that so expertly in this show. I can't believe how good they did with that. Like, you know, because it's not all at once. You know what I mean? Like it's so easy to overdo the like pull on your heartstrings because it's a baby gag. Yeah. Like you can really fuck up a story by doing too much of that. For sure. And I feel like they really walk the line of like, you know, this guy isn't like a father, but like he has this relationship with this thing. They nailed that shit. I was aware. I've never watched any of the Clone Wars, right? But I was aware just through like osmosis, I guess, of what's the girl's name with the dual wielding lightsabers? Ahsoka Tano.
Ahsoka Tano, yeah.
I was aware of who she was, and it was cool to see her on screen. It was cool to just get any kind of Jedi stuff. And I was like, I wonder who we're gonna run into. You know what I mean? And when we ran into her, I was like, oh fuck, like, you know, you really don't have to have watched like all the Clone Wars stuff. Like they really kind of hold your hand through it, but not in a way that I think is insulting to people that know all the lore.
Yeah, that's the respect I'm talking about. Like all across the board. Yeah. And like hindsight, going back and watching all this stuff and just remembering what we watched in The Mandalorian, it's like, fuck man, they knocked that one out of the park. Dude. Just they landed everything, you know.
Jon Favreau, holy fuck. Like man, and everything written, created by, like, he's just, I mean, you know, he works for, like, the biggest studio on the planet, so I'm sure he has a hell of a research department.
It is him and Dave Filoni, like, the two of them. And Dave Filoni is, a big portion of Clone Wars and all of Rebels. So, he's
got a guy that's well-informed.
He's the guy. Like, I think Dave Filoni is, like, more or less running the show over there. Like, him and, I think Kathleen Kennedy is still, like... Jon Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, Dave Filoni. I think there's a couple other people I'm forgetting that are at the executive level, just handling this with the most respect and care they can. And I'm so excited for more.
It's just so funny, right? Like, and it's, you know, fans in general, let alone sci-fi fans, are just so goddamn fickle. You know. Yeah. See my rant about Loki 20 minutes ago. But you know. they're just so fickle, and you need no reminder than the trilogy that just wrapped up to see what happens if you miss the mark even just a little bit. You know what I mean? And it's crazy to just watch them stick the landing in like every possible way.
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't know if I've ever seen something handled so well. And that might sound like we're getting into hyperbole, but like if you're listening to this, chances are you're a Star Wars fan, and it's like.
But considering like how brittle is the Star Wars fandom? The fans themselves, and that's not a stretch. It's not a hot take by any fucking stretch of the imagination. Like Star Wars fans have been incredibly brittle and whiny and a little over the top for years.
100%.
And this is just. This is like gold plated for like everyone. Everyone can just walk into this and be like, fucking A. This is like, taking me back here.
Have you seen the Corridor Crew, the YouTube channel that we've talked about before? They do breakdowns on CGI, stunt work, animation, and they're working industry professionals, and they put their videos together really well. And they've had one of the guys on from The Mandalorian.
Okay.
And talked about just like the technical achievement of that show. And about how they just use giant OLED panels. Yeah. Have you seen any behind the scenes on that show?
I've watched.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's crazy. I think they've made like 4 or 5 of them, and that's what they're going to start using going forward on everything.
It's like a revolution in filmmaking. People are saying it's like they're using Unreal Engine, the video game engine, to simulate environments that they then make the actors stand in front of, and then they like actually build a bit of set around that as well.
Yep, to make it look tangible. Yeah.
So it's like green screen, but the actor can actually see. It's fucking crazy, and it seems like such an obvious thing, but like
there's some really, really good documentaries and all the behind the scenes stuff. Like if you have a Disney Plus subscription and you're not watching any Star Wars content right now, like you should be watching those documentaries. Like they are really, really good.
I didn't know they had behind the scenes stuff down there.
All for season 1 and 2. And this thing too, like the Disney Plus, pretty much everything on there. If you dig a little deeper when you're on like a show or a movie's page, they just have like sometimes hours of content extra that if you want to dive into, you can. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Very, very for the fans stuff, especially with the Star Wars stuff. Like you can just eat all that up.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I think maybe I don't want to go like episode to episode. I think maybe just two other highlights was, Bill Burr was back. We talked about it a lot on the show that I'm a big stand-up fan. And, I knew that he had done the show. And then I started researching it after I saw his appearance in the second episode. Or in the second season. Because it was so much better than his first appearance in season 1.
That was a great episode in season 1. I really liked that.
I liked it too. Yeah. I was just surprised at how well he did, frankly. Like he talks about how like he doesn't really act a lot, but he gets, some good opportunities and just considers himself lucky. And I did some research on it, and it was like they wrote that part for him. Jon Favreau was like, dude, I think this guy, like, we're kind of writing it for you. Like the guy's kind of a dick. Like he's, like, do you know the whole story behind that casting?
Well, I don't know. I know like Bill Burr's been very vocal about like, I don't like Star Wars. It's for fucking nerds, like. But I think that was perfect fitting for like the role he was playing. Yeah. And to bring someone completely outside who just doesn't give a fuck. Yeah. About all of it and just genuinely be themselves, and it shines through.
And they
like,
wrote
clearly.
They wrote to like his comedy chops. Yeah. And but like he has some like acting moments in there, and like I thought he totally held his own. Like it's tricky, I think, to not get blown off the screen by 1, Pedro Pascal, and 2, Pedro Pascal in a helmet, and you can't play off his reaction. Yeah. Like, especially if you don't act a ton, and now you're, like, in a series by, like, the world's biggest studio.
He had, like, his big moment this season, which you're alluding to, like, he has some unreal acting chops in that one episode he's in. And, fucking Bill Burr. He needs to do, like, obviously like, he's gonna be a comedian forever. Like that's what that's his bread and butter, and he's great at it. But he should be doing a ton more acting. Like, yeah.
Dude, the 1-minute version of that story is that Jon Favreau did a movie called Chef, and it's it's like an ASMR galore because it's all these beautiful shots of like him cooking. Yeah, and that's what spawned the Chef show on Netflix, which is also great. And it's just him and the guy who actually taught him how to cooking.
Yes.
And Bill Burr rants on his podcast about how he makes this grilled cheese in the movie and it looks amazing. And Bill Burr's podcast is big enough that Favreau eventually hears it, and then he does the chef show, and they make that grilled cheese with Bill Burr. And they teach him how to make it like he did in the movie, and he's on that episode in their Netflix show. And then fast forward, they're like at a party, and Favreau goes like, he asks him about the whole, gunslinger role for Mandalorian. And Bill Burr was like, yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I've been pretty vocal about making fun of Star Wars for like a straight decade. And Favreau's like, yeah, we know. I've heard it. I listen to your podcast. I think it's hilarious. I think your fans would like it. And we kind of are writing it for you. So would you think you would do it? And Bill Burr, being Bill Burr, was like, oh, I don't know, man. And his wife was like, no, he'll do it. He'll do it. And that's the story of how he got on. And like, geez, what a great episode. It's so cool to see people like that pop up and have good performances.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to mention, and then we can wrap up Mandalorian, is the the de-aging the CGI face.
Ooh, that was a tough hang.
I mean, like it is, but probably the hardest thing to do in CG right now. Like anytime you do it and you go for de-aging, you're gonna be looked at, or de-aging, or even just complete CG, or it's probably a mixture of both.
But the thing is,
I'm just saying you're gonna be looked at with a microscope.
For sure, I agree. My argument is that they have, Star Wars specifically, has done it before, and it looked very good. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand, like, that's the thing. I don't know the science and the minutia of it, like the actual technology. Mm-hmm. I don't know if some faces are harder to do than others, or, like it's, like, again, I don't know the inner workings of it, but like they did Tarkin, they did Mon Mothma, and they looked, like you can still tell, but it didn't have the full uncanny valley array that Luke did.
Yeah.
I honestly wish they would have just cast someone.
I know.
And been like, that's Luke. And everyone's like, oh shit. Like I think I don't understand people, again, brittle Star Wars fans, but like, I think that would have been the route to take, if I was running the show. But
it's tricky, right? Like, because Tarkin looks so good. Yeah. So much of it has to do with like archive footage, the lighting of that footage, and if they have that actor available for like reference, and if there was like old reference stuff in the archives that they can use, and then how much work they want to do to it afterwards. And I feel like it's no secret that the hardest part of CG, and especially this kind of CG, is lighting, right? Like Leia may have been the worst one in Rogue One, but she was in the brightest room possible. She was in an all-white room with lights shining on her face. Like that's when shit gets tricky, right? Like the age-old tale of CG is like, if you're not good at it, you just turn off the lights. It's like the end of Wonder Woman 1984. It's like the CG was so shitty that they just like staged a power outage, and then they could just have a fight that looked half convincing.
Oh my God. I had no idea. That was what had happened there.
Yeah, but anyway, so I didn't think it was that bad. It was definitely not as bad as Leia. It was completely fine for me. Like, I was just sort of like so stoked for the moment, because the moment was good enough that I wasn't gonna let some weird hang up on CG ruin it for me. I can guarantee that other Star Wars fans probably didn't feel the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
There was like some uncanny valley shit going on. Yeah. And you could definitely tell the voice was like sampled, because it was like almost too clear. Like it didn't sound like the guys in the room sounded, like the other actors in the room. But like, again, that's kind of like with the microscope, and it's because you're taking a character who hasn't looked like that in 30 years.
Yeah.
That's just sort of comes with the territory. Like, to your point, it may have just been better to cast somebody. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I don't know. I was hype as fuck.
Oh yeah, like the whole walk, like, cause gets like
his own hallway scene, just like Vader got in Rogue One.
But that's the thing. It's essentially the exact same scene from Vader.
Yeah,
that's the crazy thing. So like they more or less did a shot for shot of like father and son like repeating history, obviously in two different contexts. But that was just like, I knew the second the X-wing came up, I was like, oh fuck, it is on. Like I was shaking like when it was going. When we were watching it.
I really thought it was gonna be like a too good to be true thing. Like because they were kind of in the pocket of like, there's a Jedi. Who's it gonna be? It's Ahsoka Tano. You know what I mean? Like yeah. the whole Boba Fett thing and all this stuff.
That was great too, yeah.
Like, it just felt like they were trying not to make the obvious choice. Like, maybe it didn't feel that way to other people, but I'm so unplugged from Star Wars that, like,
sure.
It felt like everything was just almost kind of fringe. And Luke Skywalker's, like, the best, biggest choice. And, like, they just fucking went for it. And I was like,
yeah.
I was super stoked that they went for it. I think I'm just more grateful than anything, because the first thought I had was, like, I think what so many people wanted out of the new sequels and what so many people were craving when the original trilogy ended was, like, what does Luke fucking do next?
Yeah.
Like, what happens to our boy? Like, show me the Jedi, academy that he opens. Like, show me all the stuff. Show me the New Republic. And, like, it's this time period in Star Wars that people desperately wanted more of, and especially Luke. And this is literally the only time we've seen it.
Yeah.
Like, the only time we've seen him at, like, the peak of his powers, not in some weird dream sequence flashback. You know what I mean? So Absolutely. It was just cool. And if that means you have to CG him, then CG him. I don't give a fuck.
Oh, yeah.
It was cool as fuck, man. Mandalorian Season 2 gets an A. I'm coming right off it. I haven't, like, looked at it too critically.
Sure.
But fucking A. Love it.
Absolute.
8 or 9 out of 10. Love it. Watch that shit. If you even have a distant enjoyment of Star Wars, you should take a look at that and just see,
If you're a fan of Westerns, you should be watching The Mandalorian. It's one of the best. It's genuinely a Western. It's a space opera Western, and if you like that genre, which a lot of people do, like, Westerns are great, and this is one of the best takes on it I've probably ever seen.
And think about the audacity of that. Like, the audacity of being like, I'm going to make a Star Wars Western, and it's not going to suck.
Yeah.
Like, that's just so hard to do when you think about the history of the fucking franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just did it in modern day. They're like, yes, this is still possible. All right. That was a good chunk of time, but... Mandalorian Season 2.
Do it.
All right. I got some quick hits, and then I want to hear what else you've been watching.
Sure, yeah.
One-liners. To Your Eternity, hiatus this week. I'm upset.
Oh,
That's all there is to say.
Gives me time to catch up.
Yes. And Tokyo Revengers, I said, like, a couple of weeks ago that they were, like, having, like, a finale.
Sure. Yeah,
I think I got duped. I don't know if that was fake news or what, but it is apparently still going. Maybe they will also have the mid-season break, but...
Something about a Halloween arc.
Yeah.
I read something about that online.
So I don't know. I will say that their last 2 episodes have been completely excellent and have really, like, brought the show to, like, a great sense of climax, and I'm very stoked on it. Excited to see where it goes.
I'm about to open the floodgates on that fucking show.
Hit me up.
Well, on Tokyo Revengers, like, that is the, like, target locked, target acquired, just on my holidays. Like, I'm like in my off time when I, like, there's the stuff that Leanne and I are watching together, but anytime I have to watch a show like Tokyo Revengers, like, that's the I'm going for it, because you've been talking about it. I've been reading all these things. It's like, why have I not been watching this week to week?
Dude,
it's just one of those things.
I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on it. Like, it's so fucking weird.
Sure, I love weird.
It is so not the kind of show I watch. Like, I think you'll watch it and be like, what? Like, but, like, for whatever reason, there's something, like I told you about last time, like, watching a show week to week.
Yeah.
It's just so easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their strength as far as anime stuff goes is, like, dude, their animation of just cities and, like, cities at night and lighting in anime.
Sure.
Top tier. It's so good. I'm excited for you to watch it.
That's a good pick. It's a good something to pick out of a show. I'm interested to see that.
Yeah.
Not to compare, OddTaxi had a lot of that too. Just, like, the love and care. I think I mentioned that too. Just the background.
Yeah.
Just the world was so, like, obviously there's animals walking around, but it was just such one of the most lived-in shows I've seen.
The vivid environment.
In a long time. Yeah. But yeah, Tokyo Revengers. I'm like I said, I'm going for it.
Yeah. Last tidbit of news: Demon Slayer dropped, like, a trailer today that they've kind of already dropped.
Okay.
I don't really know what's going on. They're saying, oh, we're going to have news about Season 2 on July 24th. In the meantime, here's a trailer. But the trailer is, like, this compilation of footage they've already released, like, 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of detailing the new arc, which we talked about last time we talked about Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
Like, it's just going to be him and another Hashira, I guess. But literally nothing new. It's like an announcement about, oh, more info is coming in July. But they did say 2021 again, so...
I have seen, that's like the thing that's been sticking out in the news. Like there's like a new trailer, and then there's like, and then in bold, 2021 is happening. You know, it's like, oh, okay, well.
I think it's because people feel like they actually haven't shared anything new in a while. Like, and people are starting to feel like maybe.
Well, they had this big fucking behemoth they had to get out of the way. You know, like that had to, you know, make landing for the rest of the world. So maybe they just didn't want to dip into their.
Good point.
You know, it's hard to say, but it's not. There's no way it's going to be bad.
Oh, and they're doing a comedy spin-off manga.
Oh, I did read that.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting. That'd be fun to
that might be one
dive into that. Yeah, but I would be worried if hopefully they don't mention
main plot stuff,
referencing other stuff that we don't know like where it would take place.
Yeah, because the main manga is finished.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yeah, it is finished. Yeah. That's true. You were saying that. Right. But,
what you watching, homie?
What am I watching? So, Friday night, the new Steven Soderbergh movie came out. No Sudden Moves. Have you heard anything about this?
Dude.
Did you watch it?
No, I haven't heard a thing about it. I was like, Steven Soderbergh has a new movie?
So, because he signed that big deal a year or two ago when HBO Max more or less like came out swinging about they're making this push for content prior to all the theaters closing and whatnot. The big acquisition, more or less, was a however many movie deal with Steven Soderbergh. And he did one, came out last year. It was kind of, I think it took place on a boat. I think it had Helen Mirren or Meryl Streep. Anyway, so this is kind of like not a return to form. I don't think that's a fair thing to say because he's such an eclectic director. Like he's fearless in his subject matter in his movies. Like he will cover anything, and mad respect to the man. Like he has such an eye. You know, that's the biggest thing, just the look of his movies, the details. But so No Sudden Moves is a crime noir heist movie set in the 1950s in Detroit. It stars Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro. Tremendous. Like,
it's
you know,
it's strong pairing. I like that.
Oh my god, I
Cheadle
fucking
and del Toro.
This movie, like I've always really liked Don Cheadle. Funny enough, the first time I ever saw him in a movie was Ocean's 11, like another Soderbergh movie.
Dude, I just watched Ocean 13 rewatched Ocean 13 on the weekend.
They're all good. They're all good. You know, and like he's probably one of my favorite like in my top 5 directors. Like anything he watches, I just don't care what it's about. I'll watch it. Like years ago, he did a movie for HBO called Behind the Candelabra.
Yes, I've heard.
Tremendous. Like I rewatch that every couple of years.
Did he direct the DiCaprio movie Catch Me If You Can? Is that him?
No, that's Spielberg.
Fuck.
Yeah. Also great movie. That's
also
you and I watched that. I remember that was the last movie you and I watched together.
Wow, that's so random. Yeah. Right. Okay. Anyway, No Sudden Moves. Cheadle
del Toro. Cheadle del Toro. So I've always really liked Cheadle, and I've always known he's a tremendous actor. But there's just something. This is one of the most like subtle performances I've ever seen. Well, not ever seen, but in a long. That's a little hyperbolic, but because I'm coming off this movie, but great story. Also, like David Harbour's in it. Amy Steinmetz, just a lot of good character actors that are just like pushed to the forefront. Brendan Fraser, who you don't see very often anymore, he puts on a really really good performance. But yeah, it's you know, I don't want to get into the weeds because it is a mystery, and I would not be able to do the story justice. But by the end, sometimes with these movies, by the end, you're kind of like, where did that go in the middle? You know, like I understand we're at the ending. I understand like there's this conclusion, there's that conclusion. Very followable, even though it is so dark. And there's kind of a weird filter. There's like a fisheye lens movie, pretty much the whole movie. It's very like visually, it's very at the beginning it was kind of hard, but you ease into it, and by the end, like it feels very natural. But again, I don't want to get too into it because it's one of those movies you just have to watch. I don't want to talk about it because it takes away from what it is, I think. Anyone it's 2 hours clean, anyone who loves like a good mystery thriller, you know, crime movie, this is going to be a modern classic. Legitimately.
Really?
It's really, really good. Like I don't think it's going to go to like the Oscars, and I don't think that really fucking matters, but just for like a good... I wish I'd seen this in the theater. This is the first movie I've seen since this whole, you know, COVID situation where I was, by the end of it, I was like, fuck. Actually, Demon Slayer.
I was about to say Demon Slayer, but yeah.
Demon Slayer, but like as like a, a Hollywood joint, this is the one I was like, wow, this would have been
really
great.
Would, eh?
Yeah, would have been really good in the theater.
Damn. Is it kind of like a whodunit, or would you classify it more of just like a mystery action
It's a heist.
film?
The thing is, it's a heist movie.
Oh, okay.
By definition, it's like a noir heist. And then by, not necessarily a whodunit, but it's kind of, here we go. We're kind of getting into it, which I don't want to get too into it, but it's, as the movie evolves, more mystery is gained.
Sure.
It's not like a mystery from the get-go and they're trying to get to the resolution. Things seem pretty clear and concise at the get-go, right from the beginning, and then as you progress, things start getting fucking, twisty-turny, and then you get to the ending, and it's just like, yeah, good shit.
That
really
sounds pretty good, though, man. Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, Steven Soderbergh, and like a heist noir mystery movie. That's like, those are some vibes.
Yeah, it's
cool.
Yeah, very, very good. You gotta watch it on Crave.
Watch it on Crave.
Yeah, I think it's like, because it's like an HBO Max exclusive, so like in Canada, I had to do a little bit of hoop jump. That was the one shitty thing. I do some bit of hoop jumping to get to watch the movie, because you can't rent it.
Welcome to Canada. Speaking of movie reviews, I don't know. Well, I bet you don't do this. We'll see. Do you read like the quickie or any reviews of a film before you see it?
I don't read movie reviews at all.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. The Black Widow movie reviews have like come out because it's. I don't even know if that movie's out yet, but like, you know how you get like people that like the embargo gets lifted.
Oh, sure.
Before the movie actually hits, because they're doing like a weird release with the whole COVID thing. Anyway, the reviews are out. I will say that they're like mixed. And I was gonna say, like, do you have any thoughts on that?
Surprise.
Yeah, well,
and that's not anything against the movie, but like just the talk around this thing from the fucking get-go. It's just been, like, what is this? What is this? Like, what's it gonna be?
What are we doing here?
Yeah. Are you gonna rent it? Are you gonna do the premiere access? Because we don't got theaters yet.
Like, I can. Yeah, definitely not. No hate. Like, it's just like, it's tricky because I'm such a fan of that character, and like even just Scarlett Johansson, for God's sakes, is so damn good. But like, I felt like the whole movie, its timeline, how late it happened, all of those things, it was handled so poorly, and I'm just not dying for it now, and like there's no part of me that wants to know what a character that's already dead did on like her summer vacation. Like, I don't know. I'm sure it explores that the character more, but I've also heard that it has like the typical kind of Marvel syndrome, which everything we talked about at the beginning, where it's like it's hard to let the characters have a moment without undercutting it with comedy, without also setting things up for new movies, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm sure the action sequences are great. I'm sure Scarlett Johansson is great.
Some good set pieces, for
but
sure.
I think I'll probably wait for it to get to Disney Plus.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. What? I'm trying to think. There's one piece of anime news. I wonder if it's your piece. You said you had like one anime news thing.
I got a couple. Two things.
Okay, you go, and we'll see if I had it already.
Well, the one, because I really should have capped this off at the end of our Mandalorian conversation, but the trailer dropped for StarWarsVisions.
Yeah, I had that.
Yeah. Yeah. I showed Leanna that. She had no fucking idea that was a thing that was coming out. And she was, she looked at me, she's like, is that coming out now? Like, is that out? And I'm like, in September. She's like, fuck. Okay. All right. Like, that is now, like, I think we've talked about it 3 times today alone. She's like, StarWarsVisions lends it out. Like, I'm excited. But yeah, that's going to be dope.
Hey, what a cool thing to do. I'm super down with it. Throw that money around. Yeah. Get your money's worth. Like,
there's some heavyweight studios involved too.
So I haven't looked close. Here's what I know about StarWarsVisions, and also maybe for the listener who doesn't know. So,
we should.
It's an anthology. It's an anime show, or it's an anime anthology of short films. Is that accurate?
I don't know if it's. I don't know. See, that's the thing. I don't know if it's like Love, Death, and Robots.
Yeah.
Where it's like one could be 7 minutes, one could be 20. I don't know if there's like a set time to each one, but
it is
same
an
idea
anthology.
as that. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a linear season 1 story.
It's 7 different studios.
Okay, so it's going to be, probably every episode is going to tell its own short story. It'll have its own look and feel because different studios are going to probably do every episode or each episode. So it's like kind of anime dream, right? Is you want to like be able to tell your story in as many creative ways as possible. And like, Love, Death, Robots on Netflix has been pretty successful. And even just like being able to explore the art form in as many directions as possible. Like this, that's exactly what anthologies are for, especially anime ones. So yeah, I'm super excited. It's cool to see Disney do shit like this. Yeah, I'm very down.
They're really opening the IP out to other people, which is good to see. Like fresh minds. It's not a, it's not like a vacuum anymore. It's open. It's not a closed-in vacuum. It's open to everyone, and it's fresh talent and new eyes and good takes. But the studios that stick out to me, and so Studio Trigger is doing one. I believe that is. I might be wrong here. I think that show Kill la Kill
on
and
Netflix.
Well, yeah, it's like Gurren Lagann. I think that's them. So that's that's going to be like balls to the walls. And then Production IG is doing one of them too, and they are associated to Wit Studio. I think like they're like sister companies. So they've done a lot of work on Attack on Titan, the pre-Mappa era. Like I said, I think it's all one. They work under a parent company, and they help on each other's work. So that sticks out to me as being very interesting. Of where that's going to go. Like I said, it's not Wit specifically. It's Production IG.
Yeah.
But still, so like they know how to draw some shit. Again, they all do. And like I really like. Did you watch the full trailer, or did you dip out to avoid kind of?
I don't really care about spoilers. I just haven't had a chance to watch the full trailer yet. I saw a bunch of key little gifs.
The nice thing was, and like some people can make the argument that it was just like bullshit talking heads, but they showed staff from each of the studios, and you can see the fucking excitement in their faces. I mean, talking about they're all Star Wars fans. I'm getting Jon Favreau vibes here from Mandelorian. People that want to be involved, they want to tell these stories, and I'm glad it's not all going to look the same. Everyone's going to have their own take, and from what they've shown in this 3-minute, it's only a 3-minute trailer. If you really want to go in blind, don't watch it. Like, just listen to what we're saying, but it's, to the listeners, but they kind of do like quick little shots of what it is, of what each studio is doing, kind of vibe, and a couple of them they get into a little more in depth. That's probably the ones that they're pushing. Which are probably gonna be the action heavy ones, I'm guessing. But I have incredibly high hopes for this. Like I'm not worried about this at all.
Interesting. Yeah, man, I'm super stoked. The pieces that I did see looked really cool. Not much more to say on it than that, but I'm excited for even more Star Wars.
September 22nd, I think it's dropping.
There you go. So yeah, you can probably expect us to chat about that on this show.
For sure.
On some show that we do. I don't think I have much more than that, sir.
So the other piece of news I had, and I don't know if you saw this, did you see the article, or I think it came in on Twitter, and then a couple websites were reporting on it, about a random animator was doing, not shit talking, but was kind of like throwing Netflix and Mappa under the bus a little bit.
I did see that. Some fun drama, yeah.
And like, again, like obviously, like, probably shortly afterwards, the guy kind of backed it up a little bit. Not calling out Mappa, it was more calling out Netflix. And this is the thing you and I have talked before. We're incredibly uneducated with the business side of making, of how the bread is made there. But it's crazy the undercutting that these companies are doing. Like, this is pretty vicious. For anyone listening, if you haven't read this, there's some lingo that I don't fully understand. Like, I'm looking at the article, and I've read this like 10 times since it came out. So they're saying per cut. So I'm not sure if that's like per frame worked on within an episode potentially. But
I don't think so. I think like per cut they probably mean like per every like rough cut of a scene, maybe. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I think so.
So yeah, that would make more sense. But anyways, so I guess the norm, which is very bad, is 4,500 yen. And apparently Netflix is like 3,800 yen, which equates 34 American. And like this kind of goes back to like, because wasn't it back in May there was a freelance animator who was like, I had to leave Mappa due to like, factory like conditions.
There was.
It was just essentially like, just a farming operation more or less. So and like there's other claims of other studios that are like per cut it's 250 yen, which is like two American dollars. And it's like
it's pretty messed up, man. Like
it is super messed up, and I think we should talk about, like, I don't know how at length we can get into this conversation. I just wanted to bring it up so people are aware of it. But because we love this medium, and we love talking about it, and we always want to see more, and there's always more coming. And it's a little unfortunate to read about this stuff. Like it kind of sours the taste a little bit.
Maybe, we know a couple people in the industry. Maybe we could get a guest one day on like a guest episode or something like that to talk about
that would be cool.
What it's like to work in animation. Because I know a couple people that have more or less told me when I bring stuff like this up, they're like, yeah, it really do be like that. And it's much worse in Japan. But yeah, because like a lot of these artists are paid per drawing, but they have so many drawings that are expected of them just to fill their contract. For a certain gig, right? And it's like, the guy that left Mappa that had worked on Attack on Titan had been like, of course I wanted to do better work, but like I only had 10 drawings to do on this scene, and then I had to go and do 40 drawings on a completely different show within an hour, and so unless you want to work unpaid overtime, because you don't get paid more if you draw more. It's like, here's what you're given, and here, we've decided the timetable is this, and we like, you're a resource that we're going to stretch thin if we need to. And that's just how it works. It's kind of almost like software development. It's very weird. But it's like, here's the amount of time that we've decided you need for this task. Sometimes a little bit arbitrarily, depending on the budget, and that's just how it's going to be. But yeah, I did read that. And, it's not the biggest shock that Netflix is out there being like super competitive, trying to drive down prices. Because like, look who you're talking to. But like, that was a big bummer to read about. Thanks for ending the show on that, Grant.
No, I got a couple more things.
Okay, what do you got?
But so quickly, have you ever heard of the show called Bosch?
No.
It's an Amazon Prime. It's propaganda to the extreme.
Propaganda. I haven't even heard of that.
Oh man, it's a big thing. If you like crime, cop dramas or whatever, like, it's, you see the shows like The Wire where it's opening a bigger view of, that not quite propaganda because it's showing like what's wrong with the system and all this and that. But there's other shows like, I'm sure like I don't know, I can't speak to some of these shows, but I know it's like a subgenre that people refer to as like, it's just like, it's like the White Knight discussion, like the, in the 90s that was big in a lot of movies, kind of, it's like the white man, like The Last Samurai. Tom Cruise comes, he's the white man, he saves all the all the villagers and all these various Japanese villages. Anyways,
fucking love that movie.
Great movie. No, but like I see, when people say that, it's like, oh, for sure, that is fucking weird. Like, why couldn't they tell it like a cool story of a Japanese man rising up and like saving his people? Like, I know. No, I get it. So, but anyway, so I've watched the show. Its final season just aired, came out, and Is
this an animated show or live?
No, it's live action.
It's called Bosch.
It's called Bosch. The main character, it's Harry Bosch. I think his real name is Hieronymus.
Okay.
It's named after a painting. Neither here nor there. Some good character, like some good acting performances in it, but it's very it's probably the closest to watching a CW show I will ever get. It's because and especially like there is one character on this show, it blows my mind that for 7 seasons they haven't fired this fucking girl, because she is like overacting to the max, and it's maybe for like character continuity, like they keep her around and all that, but it blows my mind. Anyway, neither here. So the final season,
nothing wrong with the Vampire Diaries, Grant.
No, and again, I'm not shit talking, but like, and like, it's not fair to say there's calibers of show, but like,
I'm teasing.
No, but like, and that's, people, I want to make a point of like, what people love. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but for me, like, I need it's not like it has to be balls to the walls, like everything has to be tip top performance, but like I want to be treated with respect. Like, don't treat me like I'm dumb. Don't try and like fool me. Like, that's a TV. There's a lot of I find more so in TV than movies. They try to get away with way more, and like just not disrespect your intelligence. You know what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah.
But this show, like it's always just kind of had like a line. It was kind of simple, nothing crazy, cool performances. I just enjoyed it.
Bosch.
This 7th season, Dave, is probably the biggest casualty of like COVID shooting I have ever seen.
Oh,
like this is the
quality?
Yeah, production problems and like
really
narrative jumping and trying to like piece this together and like phone like clearly like no one is in the room. They're just trying to like isolate people. Like it's very very strange. You can like you can tell because like obviously this stuff is shot out of order. And there's a couple scenes where there's like someone's out at like a patio. It's packed. People are also eating on this like restaurant patio, and then you cut to it like a moment later, and there's just like no one around. They clearly like went back to that spot, maybe shot again or whatever, had to do reshoots, and like just no one could be there. It was kind of like in a public area kind of thing, and because it's all set in LA. And
man, that's so awkward with like outdoor filming and shit. And...
yeah, so it's. But like, there's just some, like it just ended. Like characters just showing up. It kind of just came to like a hard, like just a halt at the end, and it was like a series finale. And they've already set up there's going to be a sequel show with a lot of the main characters just continuing that, and it just kind of was like fuck, man, like a show that I kind of really liked, and just at the end, it wasn't a total ball drop, but like they definitely like like. They weren't dribbling the ball anymore. They were just running with the ball towards the end.
That's a bump. Yeah. You're talking about that, and production issues aside, you're really reminding me of Dexter and the fact that that's coming back for a miniseries.
Yeah, that's. I'm going to watch it.
Yeah,
I'll watch it for sure.
I'll watch that shit. We'll talk about it here.
But yeah. So, anyways, it's I don't know. Like I watched it. It was 8 episodes. It was a shorter season. It kind of made sense. It was like there was some stuff they did cool. Like they tried to tackle, which I think is a problem, and like more shows should be tackling this. The white supremacist problem in the world. They very clumsily handled that. They tried to take 2 problems that need to be focused on, which is, when I say feminism, but like women in the workplace and like trying to get respect and all this and that. And they tried to tackle that with the white supremacist thing at the same time and just mash them together and like both come out as like a good outcome for like, for both, not both sides, but you know what I mean? Like one is defeated and one is risen up
in their efforts.
And it was just like, wow, this is a pretty big fucking swing, you guys. Like if you had done this separately with like, the characters in the show, I think it could have been done correctly, but it's like, but this is what I'm talking about. This is the production issues. To me, was evident due to like not being able to shoot this and that, and I'm sure the writing was kind of fucked around because of it. But
no doubt.
But because this show is based on a book series, and the guy that wrote the books, he's involved, like kind of like a George R. Martin situation, Gurm, whatever.
Yeah.
But like so he knows his characters, he knows how to write them. Did you ever see Lincoln Lawyer with Matthew McConaughey?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's same based on his book, set in the same world kind of thing. There's weird IP, so that character never showed up in Bosch, but
typical.
Yeah, typical for sure. But yeah, so kind of a bummer as the show ends. I look back on some previous seasons, which I really did enjoy, even though, like I said, it is kind of like a propaganda. Like the cops are always, the good guys, and like they are showing cops do bad shit, but I don't know. It's so funny, like in contrast to like Line of Duty, where like they're blatantly showing, which we finished the 6th season. DCI gets, which we loved. Also, too, I won't get into that this week because we've been running too long. We weren't super hot on this season for the first time ever, a season of Line of Duty. Yeah, like so next week we'll get into that. But so yeah, Bosch. I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend it to people anymore. Like it's just it was just like a weird ending. We've
talked about this. We've kicked this dead horse so many times, but it's like the importance of like an ending and knowing how to end and when to end. Because if you don't, you really bastardize everything before it. Like you really do. And I hate to be like that guy, But like, if you fuck up the ending, you literally invalidate the journey. Like,
sure.
I mean, at least I believe that. That might be like a little bit critical, but like, yeah, there are great shows that have incredibly strong seasons, but because they end bad, I refuse to rewatch them. Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna go and watch the first 3 seasons of, I don't know, Dexter.
Sure.
Because I know where it goes.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bother.
And I would like, this was not so heinous as that. Like, I know I'm a little hard on it, or I'm a little off about it, because like there was moments I liked, and the show itself was good. It had its moments that were just like, what the fuck? I'm seriously, the character, the girl that plays his daughter, like, should not be fucking acting. Like, it is so fucking bad. And anyways, but so it's Bosch.
Bosch.
Yeah.
Check it out or don't. We don't give a fuck.
Or don't. Watch it. Don't. I don't know. It's, you might like it, you might not. It's meh. Yeah.
Or watch The Mandalorian season 2. And if you
if we're gonna watch anything.
Yeah. And if you watched and listened to all these things, then go listen to our Demon Slayer review. It's just as good as the movie, some are saying. I've heard it. I'm kidding. I think that's all I've got for this week.
I got one little thing. It'll be momentary.
My God. Go ahead.
So, Leanne and I, we have busy schedules, like, we're not always together watching stuff, so I watch some things when, I got my time. She watches some things when she has her time. Leanna, the mad lad that she is, has decided to go on the Naruto journey.
What? I don't know, you're married to a fucking crazy person.
And it's just like in background stuff, like she watches a couple of, because I think her and Joe watched it growing up here and there, but it's just on Netflix. She's just been watching it. I've been walking into the room, catching like a random episode, and it's Naruto. It's the first, not the first season problem, but like you can see, because I'm coming in at different points of like from different seasons, and I can see the progression of the show and the writing and the characters. And it's very interesting just to like pop in for a random episode, and and just bounce out. And what a show! It has such a look to it of the time.
It has a very distinct look.
It has a look, in the comedy, like just the writing style. It's like, wow, this is so 90s. Like, it's crazy. And like, I'm not saying it's bad. I haven't seen enough to call it that. She's loving it. She's enjoying it. Like her, like it's the Naruto memes that we send each other now. And it's like, all right, that's Naruto. It's really funny. So it's just this random little, like a micro feather I have in my cap now. Just watching it with her periodically. And
I'm trying to think of how many episodes there are of Naruto.
I think it's not quite like One Piece, but it's up there, man. And I told her that, and she was like, when I get through it, I get through it.
No, I was kidding. Like,
I love it.
There's no hate on it. It's just like, it's such an endeavor. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I would have to, but like, then again, like, to that point, it is nice to have like a show to just have on.
Yeah.
Like, without like crazy amounts of investment, because it is frustrating sometimes. You're like, I have all these things to watch, but like, I got to watch them properly. I gotta sit down, phone down, like pay attention, because then you just like, you end up missing kind of the old habit of like flicking through channels on cable TV growing up and just like having shit on in the background.
Yeah.
You kind of miss that when everything you watch is on demand.
Well, so, it's funny because she has been watching it, like, like the all the telcos, all the information we're receiving now is all Naruto based, like all our ads and whatnot, and the Instagram videos. And so we see snippets of like, I'll see like a fight scene and I'll be like, holy fuck, that's Naruto. And it's like, I'm excited. I'm excited when it gets
crazy moments.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. It's, she's pretty deep in it now. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. I'm gonna have to start like reading recaps of what happens. And she'll just tell me, there'll be a new character. She's like, oh yeah, that's Rock Lee. She's like, yeah, fucking, I love this guy, or Kakashi. And she's like throwing off these names, and I'm like, what? Okay, Grant. Yeah, I love it. It's really fun. It's been fun just being like in the backseat watching her enjoy it. It's been pretty cool.
That is funny. Naruto. I wonder if anybody listening is a big Naruto fan. If you are, hit us up. She might be the only person I know who's actually watching it, so I'm curious to hear her thoughts.
Well, I'm sure she'll let you know.
Yeah. I think that's it for this week. Mm-hmm. Is it?
Yeah,
nothing more.
Nothing more. It was a busy week, man. Vacation. I got lots of time.
No. You gotta watch all your shit. I'm excited to see, or hear rather, your thoughts on both Loki and Tokyo Revengers, and maybe To Your Eternity if you
count on To Your Eternity catch up too.
Action packed next week, just like
busy
this week. Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening. If this is your first time listening, we're also covering the current My Hero Academia Season 5 arc. It's on hiatus this week, which is why we're here early this week with the post show. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, follow the podcasts on any social media platform that you feel comfortable with, and do the relevant social media thing on the social media platform. Okay, thank you for listening. See you next week.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.